Hey everyone, welcome back to Girl Talk. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, before we get started, if you could give me a like, share, a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all that other good stuff, I would appreciate it. So, today we're actually going to get into a deep dive that I found on Reddit. Really good information here, guys. Um, and it's actually a timeline of the Lindsay Clancy timeline. Now, this is as of January 29th of 26, and it does include discrepancies of uh, different timelines as far as medication, when the kids were born, and things like that. And really, really good overview. Um, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm sorry, but I don't know if my voice is gonna hold up to this. So we're gonna try um, the read out loud. We'll see how it works. I don't know. It might be me ending up reading all of this, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get right into it, guys. Here we go.
Updated Lindsay Clancy timeline as of January 29, 26, including discrepancies. This is a summary of the Lindsay Clancy medication treatment timeline, as best I can put together, from Patrick's and Lindsay's lawsuit, what has been released by police, and what's been shared in court, etc. In Elle's lawsuit, Patrick is quoted as saying, "Before Lindsay became ill, she was dedicated to being a mom, even over-dedicated, worked twice as hard as most. She rarely took a break to rest." Note, this has important implications because it's hard to spot hypomania in a person whose baseline or norm sounds like this. December 24, 2017 Cora was born. September 30th, 2019 Dawson was born. According to Elle's lawsuit, following the birth of her second child, she was elated and had increased energy. He described that she had manic behavior for multiple days. In October 2020, she had an episode of decluttering to simplify her life, obsessively cleaning and discarding items. She said she felt amazingly on top of things. Her thoughts raced and she constantly felt pressure to be active. It then states 2 months post-birth, she developed anxiety and was offered Zoloft by a psychiatrist, but she declined due to concerns about breastfeeding. Please note the discrepancy in the timeline above. Dawson was born in 2019, but she listed October 2020 as the time period when she had hypomania. May 26, 22 Callan was born. P's lawsuit said Elle repeatedly told P how happy she was and how much she loved their new baby. She was enthusiastic and energetic. June 23, 2022 This marks 4 weeks postpartum. For P's lawsuit, Elle has no symptoms at this time. Based on DSM-5's criteria, Elle cannot receive a postpartum specifier for any diagnosis if no symptoms are present by this point. However, per Elle's lawsuit, she alleges she was actually hypomanic during this period. July 2022 P and Elle run a 5K. Mid-August P returns to work. He returned 12 weeks after Callan's birth. Mid-August, per Elle's lawsuit, her mood suddenly switches from hypomania to anxiety and depression. She had debilitating anxiety, insomnia, and sleeping 3 hours per night, no motivation, could not exercise. Sept 2022 Per P's lawsuit, P and Elle run another 5K. Discrepancy, per Elle's lawsuit she says she's too depressed to exercise at this point. Mid-Sept Per P's lawsuit, Elle begins to experience stress, anxiety, and meets with psychiatrist Drive. Tufts. She is diagnosed with chronic GAD and chronic adjustment EO with depressed mood and prescribed Zoloft. Note the chronic specifier isn't used in the latest DSM edition, so I wouldn't read too much into that. September 12, 2022 Per Elle's lawsuit, she met with Dr. Tufts, who she found online. Postnatal depression scale score was 23, severe. Zoloft was prescribed. End of September 2022 Elle is supposed to return to work. October 3, 2022 Per P's lawsuit, Elle tells Drive. Tufts she hasn't taken the Zoloft yet. She's on the verge of taking the medication, but wants to try therapy first.
We just got to give it a minute. It's stuck.
Note, it's unclear in either lawsuit when she actually started therapy. Mid-October, Elle initiates the starting dose of Zoloft and reportedly increased it, as directed. October 20th, 2022 per P's lawsuit, Elle told Drive. Tufts she increased from 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams. She reported, feeling awful, insomnia, poor appetite, more depressed, crying all day and mental fog. She was terrified to start something new. She allegedly developed racing thoughts and became paranoid of getting suicidal thoughts, something bad happening, doesn't want to be alone. Elle's lawsuit says she experienced a severe adverse reaction. She did not sleep for 48 hours and had racing thoughts and worsening anxiety. Dr. Tufts discontinued Zoloft and prescribed Ativan and Benadryl for sleep. October 31st, 2022 per P's lawsuit, Elle told her therapist, who is reported to be a colleague of Dr. Tufts, that she was hoping to return to work soon, and hopeful this would decrease her depressive symptoms. November 8, 2022 Elle made a post in the FB group I Am Not Alone, Postpartum Depression, Anxiety and Rage, saying she was looking for advice on meds for PPD. She writes she tried Zoloft for 1 week and after increasing it to 50 milligrams, she had extreme insomnia and her depression worsened. She says Ativan is the only medication that worked for her. It has the perfect effect of decreasing my anxiety and making me feel happy again. Note P's lawsuit does not mention who prescribed the Ativan. Elle's lawsuit says it was prescribed by Dr. Tufts. Dosage is unknown. Mid-November, insomnia worsens. She's allegedly sleeping only 3 hours, night. November 16, 2022 per P's lawsuit, Elle went to the ER for insomnia. This was consistent with Elle's lawsuit, stating she took herself to the emergency room at South Shore Hospital and reported insomnia, anxiety, and palpitations. She was given trazodone, but it was not effective even at 150 milligrams. November 20th, 2022 P's mother, a nurse at South Shore Hospital, contacted Nurse Paul at South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health Program and asked her to contact Lindsay. Lindsay tells Nurse Paul she is frustrated, scared, overwhelmed, having racing thoughts, constant thinking, extreme insomnia, and sleeping 3 hours, night. November 21st, 2022 per P's lawsuit, Elle described symptoms suggesting mania, racing thoughts, extreme insomnia, frustration, and feeling scared. However, per P's lawsuit, Nurse Paul then wrote a script for Prozac, 10 milligrams. November 23, 2022 Elle tells Nurse Paul she is feeling disconnected, out of it, spacey. November 25, 2022 per Elle's lawsuit, after 4 days on Prozac, her insomnia worsened and she discontinued it. Nurse Paul prescribes 3 different meds, Ambien, Remeron, and Clonopin at once. The meds reportedly did not help with sleep. Note, there is no mention of the dosage or how long she tried these meds. November 26, 2022 per Elle's lawsuit, after taking Remeron, she experienced dissociation, perceiving the world around her as unreal, distorted, and distant. She could not determine what was real. She was forgetful, confused, unable to drive or be alone. November 28, 2022 Elle tells Nurse Paul she is still struggling with sleep, disoriented, not connected to her body, petrified of becoming addicted to benzos, feels like she is in a panic state. November 29, 2022 per P's lawsuit, Elle begins treating with Nurse Paul's colleague, Nurse Jalata. Note, it's unclear why she switched providers. Per P's lawsuit, Elle tells Nurse Jalata she's physically Tells nurse Julata she's physically dependent on benzos to sleep. She's completely overwhelmed, mind is constantly running. For L's lawsuit, nurse Julata correctly considers bipolar disorder and prescribes Seroquel. Discrepancy. For P's lawsuit, L later reports she had immediate passive SI after being prescribed Seroquel, with the date listed as 11/30. There is no mention of the dosage or how long she was on this medication. According to L's lawsuit, after starting Seroquel, her condition took a dramatic turn for the worse. She developed suicidal ideation and began experiencing what she described as intrusive thoughts, which were actually auditory hallucinations. The voice said, "I will not be the same. I want to die." Shortly thereafter, P's lawsuit noted that L tells her therapist, Letitia Dukes, that she had an addiction to Ativan, and that is why she can't sleep. She reports weight loss, poor appetite, panic attacks, feelings of numbness. This is the first time she reports suicidal ideation, per P's lawsuit. December 2, 2022, per L's lawsuit, on 12 halves, she told nurse Julata she had lost 15 pounds, had no appetite, was experiencing panic attacks, confusion, and lack of attention over the past 4 days. December 4, 2022, per L's lawsuit, she was so scared of the hallucinations, she called a suicide hotline, but was told there was no emergency because she had no specific plan to kill herself. Note, it's unclear if she actually told them she was hallucinating. December 5, 2022, per L's lawsuit, she met virtually with an Aspire crisis support clinician, and was told she did not meet criteria for inpatient treatment B.C. She did not have a plan for suicide. Note, again, it's unclear if she told them she was actively hallucinating. December 5, 2022, per P's lawsuit, L tells therapist she is experiencing intrusive thoughts of wanting to die. Note, intrusive thoughts are not necessarily the same thing as suicidal ideation. P joins a visit with Nurse Paul, and says L's anxiety has worsened since starting meds. Discrepancy. L's lawsuit does not mention this appointment at all. December 6, 2022, per P's lawsuit, L attended an APPT with Nurse Gelada. L reports she's still only sleeping 3 hours, night, feeling overwhelmed, mind constantly running. Denies SI but reports feeling something terrible might happen. Nurse Gelada prescribes Valium. Note, there is no mention of what dose or whether she took this medication consistently until the taper by Dr. Tufts in January. For L's lawsuit, P attended this appointment with L, and it was P who connected L's suicidal thoughts to the Seroquel. He told Nurse Jalada that L is 10,000 times worse since she had taken medication. He asked to get L off meds and start from scratch to see what's going on. Nurse Julata increased Seroquel to 400 milligrams per day. Note, the typical daily dose for bipolar I would be 400 to 800 milligrams. December 9, 2022, per P's lawsuit, P calls Nurse Jalata and asked for urgent callback. Nurse Jalata calls them back and L and P reports she is experiencing panic and SI. They say Nurse Jalata advises L to continue taking the medication. December 13, 2022, L's lawsuit said on this day, she remained deeply depressed, had no motivation, and still had suicidal ideation. She wanted this all to be over. December 15, 2022, P called Nurse J's office to report L had a devastating week and that it was the worst day for Lindsay. She had horrible thoughts all day. It is then stated Elle had auditory hallucinations all day every day. She felt debilitated, not interested in anything, exhausted, and could not get out of bed. All of December, per P's lawsuit, Elle has persistent thoughts of suicide, and Elle continues to seek help through Nurse Jalata and her therapist. Discrepancy, he does not mention the additional appointments with Dr. Tufts or Nurse Paul. Elle contacts Drive Tufts, who prescribed Lamictal. Note, there is no mention of the dose or how long she took this medication. Per Elle's lawsuit, no date noted. Elle told P, I have thoughts of harming the kids. She also told her mother about these thoughts. Because she was in a psychotic state, Elle also had paranoid delusions that people could hear her thoughts and that she would be locked in a hospital and have her children taken away. December 20th, 2022. According to Elle's lawsuit, Elle's escalating suicidal thoughts prompted a visit to Mass General Hospital on this date. The ERT suggested either admission to McLean Hospital or the Partial Hospitalization Day program at Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island. Discrepancy, there is no mention of this or visit in P's lawsuit. December 20th, 2022. Per P's lawsuit, Elle enters a day hospital program at Women Infants Hospital intended for women with postpartum depression. She reports heart palpitations, severe depression, feelings of numbness, and that life is becoming a disaster. She also says she cannot feel fear, and she's worried she was beyond repair. Note, there is no mention how Elle would have stayed in Rhode Island for this outpatient program, had she been accepted to it. Would she have been left there alone? Would P have stayed with her? Just a month prior, on 11/25, she could not drive or be left alone. December 21st, 2022. Per Elle's lawsuit, she admitted herself to the Partial Hospitalization Day program at Women and Infants Hospital. Discrepancy, in the dates they say she admitted herself 12/20 versus 12/21 per her lawsuit, reported feeling crazy, depressed, numb to all emotions, can't feel love, and that her life was becoming a disaster, that she couldn't feel fear, that she was messed up beyond repair. EPDS score equals 23. Note, this is the same score as before, suggesting symptoms had not worsened since September. GAD score was 7. Per Elle's lawsuit, Drive Diaz at Women and Infants concluded Elle had no postpartum depression and rejected a bipolar diagnosis because of no history of hypomania or psychosis or family history. They allege the is due to inadequate history. Per Elle's lawsuit, Drive Diaz accepted Elle and P's belief that her symptoms were due to overmedication and recommended weaning Seroquel. They felt her symptoms were more pharmacologically induced than purely depressive. Per P's lawsuit, Women and Infants thinks Elle's symptoms are due to overmedication and misdiagnosis. Women and Infants allegedly reached out to Nurse Gelada, who allegedly did not respond. Note, it's unclear why they didn't call any other treatment providers or why they discharged her without speaking to any treatment provider, etc. December 29, 2022 per L's lawsuit, L's suicidal ideation surged and L told her husband, "I can't tough it out. I need to go McLean." December 30th, 2022 per L's lawsuit, L went to the MGH emergency room, which suggested admission to McLean Hospital. December 31st, 2022 per L's lawsuit, L admitted herself to McLean Hospital due to severe depression and suicidal ideation. Admitting symptoms include passive SI, feeling detached, hopeless, depression, no appetite or energy. Admitting symptoms include passive SI, feeling detached, hopeless, depression, no appetite or energy to perform ADLs, no motivation, anhedonia, racing thoughts, inability to organize her thoughts, memory problems, anxiety, and insomnia. Her insight and judgment were noted to be limited. January 1st, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L admits herself to McLean due to SI. She texts Patrick to say she doesn't belong there. Discrepancy, dates of hospital admission, 12/31 versus 1/1. Not sure why these two consistently report different dates. January 3rd, 2023 L sees the McLean doctor, who reportedly advised L to stop Seroquel and benzos and prescribed trazodone for sleep. January 4th, 2023 L reportedly asked to go home for her daughter's birthday. B. See her thoughts had improved since the Seroquel decrease, she was approved from discharge. January 5th, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L is discharged from McLean. Discrepancy, again with the dates. L says discharge was 1/4, P says discharge was 1/5. Note, no mention is made of discharge plans or recommendations. No mention is made of what medications she is now taking. Date unknown, drive. Goodhart, from McLean, reportedly called Lindsay and spoke for 10 minutes offering names of antidepressants, including amitriptyline. January 6, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L sees psychiatrist drive. Tufts. Diagnosis is updated to chronic, major depressive disorder, single episode, moderate. Note, this diagnosis of MDD could have been given with the specifier of severe, with or without psychotic features, but drive. Tufts went with moderate. There is no mention of what meds she's taking or any changes made in P's lawsuit. January 7, 2023 per L's lawsuit, she attends daughter's birthday party and smiled but could not converse. She avoided talking and could not make sense of what others were saying. January 9, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L sees drive. Tufts again. Police records note a prescription for diazepam, 5 milligrams, was filled on this day. Instructions appear to be to wean down on the medicine. January 10, 2023 per L's lawsuit, L meets with Dr. Tufts and was switched to Valium for benzodiazepine taper. Discrepancy, there is no mention of this APPT in P's lawsuit. January 12, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L meets with Dr. Tufts again, and reports low mood, low motivation, and feeling very stressed. Says this has been going on for months now and I am getting desperate for something that would work quickly to get me out of this depressed state. Note, there is no mention of what medications she's taking or any changes made in P's lawsuit. Also, discrepancy, there is no mention of this appointment in L's lawsuit. January 13, 2023 police records indicate a prescription for trazodone, 150 milligrams, was filled. January 16, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L sees drive. January 16, 2023 per P's lawsuit, L sees drive. Tufts on this date and L's mood is depressed, affect is depressed and flat, no motivation, she feels numb, able to get out bed, concentration is fine, caring for baby feels forced. No SI. Discrepancy, there is no mention of this appointment in L's lawsuit other than to say L is prescribed amitriptyline, 10 milligrams on this day and L is still experiencing debilitating depression. She had to force herself to do anything. The hallucinations continued, you should harm the children. You should kill yourself. You will never be the same. January 16, 2023 police records note a prescription for diazepam, 2 milligrams, was filled on this day. Instructions appear to be intended to help her wean off this medication. Police records also note a prescription for amitriptyline, 10 milligrams, was filled on this day. January 20, 2023 per her lawsuit, L researches why is a psychopath. January 22, 2023 P and L and their two oldest kids go to dinner at a friend's home. According to what the friend told police, L seemed fairly normal, mostly quiet while on her phone keeping to herself. January 23, 2025 this is the day before the muter. For P's lawsuit, drive. Tufts notes L is a little more anxious, her heart is racing, mood is flat, anxious, she reports no motivation, feeling numb, has to force herself up. Notably, her insight is described as poor. For L's lawsuit, drive. Tufts increases the amitriptyline to 20 milligrams and she did not sleep at all this night. Other weird discrepancies. Per police report, P told police L had been having suicidal thoughts, as well as thoughts of hurting the children since the end of December. In his lawsuit, he says she had suicidal thoughts all of December. P's friend tells police that L was having issues with her medications and she was mostly anxious and not depressed. He felt as if Elle was not overly anxious and the anxiety level was normal and not severe. For Elle's lawsuit, she woke up on 1/24th, severely depressed with suicidal thoughts and suicidal hallucinations that continued nonstop all day. These are two different things.
So that saved a little bit of time on my voice. So that actually is the timeline. Now, when we listen to that, um, when they're saying P, that means Patrick, who is her ex-husband, um, who, just remember, he is a witness not only for the prosecution, but he's also a witness for the defense. And of course, when they say L, that is Lindsay. Now, what struck me, and even those discovered discrepancies, what struck me was way back at the beginning, if you remember, she did try to get help. And believe me, this is such a horrific, I don't want to say crime. It's a horrific situation. Um, there's three innocent children that are no longer here. On the other side of that, you have what looks like and seems like a woman that had tried to get help and was failed by our medical community once again. And when it comes to mental health, um, I think I mentioned this on when we did the mental um, health matters, when we did that video. When it comes to mental health, it's taking so long to get into these therapists and psychiatrists and things like that. And if you listened and if you caught it, she did try to get admitted. She didn't meet the criteria for inpatient treatment because she didn't have a plan. Now, if she's already at the ER, she's already at the psychiatrist. We don't just go there because we have nothing better to do, right? Nobody's going to the ER and saying, hey, I'm in a mental health crisis, because they're bored. Nobody's going to their psychiatrist and being like, hey, this medication isn't working. And the other question that I have, how many times did they try Seroquel? How many times did they try the same medication but increase the dose? And I realize with a lot of mental health medications, it's just like any medication. It's a lot of trial and error. And it doesn't always take a day or two to get in your system. A lot of times you're talking weeks until you figure out, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But it seems like they kept trying the same medication over and over and over. Well, I'm not a doctor, but as a psychiatrist, it's kind of common sense here that you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, you're going to get the same result over and over and over. What the hell did they expect to happen? If it wasn't working, try something else. They tried the trazodone. They tried the Seroquel. They tried the Prozac. Seroquel, they increased that. The trazodone, that wasn't making her sleep. Did they ever think maybe it was having an opposite reaction? I have so many questions on this, especially when it comes to the medication. But I thought it was so important to go over um, the timeline of this. And if I didn't say it before, because today I have middle aged brain tough, um, I'll say it again if I didn't before. Both Lindsay and her ex husband Patrick, they both have a lawsuit against um, the doctors, and I don't blame them. How many times can you attempt to get help? And her husband tried to get her help. That's the thing. If it was just her, I think we would have to be like, I don't know, is it, did it really happen, right? Or how much can we look into it? But her husband was advocating for her. Her mom was advocating for her. She was advocating for herself. That's three people that are advocating. I don't know. This one's going to be interesting. Did the system fail, or is this a very, very horrific crime? Or is it both? To be determined. All right, we'll talk soon, guys. Bye.